Welcome to the Balanced Badass Podcast, the show for multitaskers determined to stay balanced and badass without losing their minds. Every week, we help you manage your overflowing calendar and household, making sure you still have time to breathe, laugh, and savor that much-needed glass of wine at the end of the day. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of practical advice, humor, and tough love, just like catching up with a friend who really gets it. I'm Tara Kermiet, your personal growth coach, helping you handle how was your day without a meltdown. Now let's get into today's episode. All right, folks, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you here. Today, we're chatting about burnout in the helping professions, which I know is a huge field of folks that, because of the work they do, experience burnout quite regularly. And if you've ever wondered how therapists, how coaches, how caregivers keep their crap together, I got to be honest with you and say that probably a lot of them are struggling behind the scenes, at least as someone who has experienced it herself as well. But that's why we brought in our guest today. Ina is a therapist. She's a coach and mentor who knows exactly what it does feel like. So Ina turned her own experience with burnout into a mission to help other therapists step into their leadership potential, set some boundaries that they need, and find harmony between their work and personal lives, which is a great fit for the Balanced Badass podcast. So Ina says that she's cracked the code on being a successful therapist without sacrificing your well-being. So I'm really excited for her to share with us how you can do the same in your field of work. So I want to jump right into it and say welcome to the Balanced Badass podcast, Ina.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for having me here. And I'm very excited to speak on a topic like this that we think a lot, but we don't hear much or have a space, and especially as like health professionals and especially as therapists, where we give the space to others versus like thinking about where is the space for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up right from the get-go that, we turn to folks for help a lot of times in professions and fields that are focused and centered around that giving nature. But many of us that are receiving that gift back are not often thinking about the mental toll, the physical toll, the emotional toll that this does play on those individuals. And not that that is our burden as, the person receiving the gift, but it is something that I think awareness needs to be built around, because if those folks aren't taking care of themselves, then we're going to have less and less of those folks in the field to be able to do that work.
Definitely. And also normalizing it, that it doesn't make you someone who can't help anymore. It doesn't make you someone who you can't use your gift or talent to humanity. But it means that this is where the strength lies. And when I was a student in my master's program, I never believed it until I really tried it myself. You know, those stubborn kids, when your parents tell you something, you're like, what are you talking about? But then when you see it, it's real, and you're like, wow, like this was an advice I got like on the first year before even becoming a therapist. And I only embodied it like 5 years after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I want to jump right into it. And I mentioned this to you earlier when we were kind of in our pre-chat, but I always start my conversations with the same icebreaker question. What is something that you are just loving in your life right now?
Everything. I at right now at this point, I'm actually loving everything: the opportunities, the past experiences, my family, myself, the time with me, with the kids, with my friends, colleagues, and the whole support system. But to wrap up all of this, when I say everything, it's the peace I
Mm,
actually receive from all of those channels that they help be me or be part of my life.
It sounds like you have really some great alignment right now in all facets of your life, which is bringing that sense of peace, and that you could just tell, like looking at you, like the energy that you were even giving off on for those that can see the video, but even probably just by your voice, that you really are loving everything in your life right now, which is awesome. And I love asking this question because I think a lot of times we get so bogged down with like what's not working and the challenges that we're facing. And so I always want to start any podcast or any conversation with a question like that because it helps you put folks in the right mindset and to really think about what's possible versus what's challenging and struggling in their lives.
Yeah, and I love that you do that. This is something that over the years I've even seen in therapy, but also among the colleagues and people I mentor, that out there, especially in the days we live in, there is so much insecurities, negativity. People point out, what don't you have, what's wrong with you, what you can do better. And it's rarely like we focus on like, but what is going good? Because not everything has to go wrong, you know. We have increased a lot on like the complaining part, and then at some point I turned over my sessions, and we'll start, what is a good highlight of your week, what was something good, you know, and like trigger people into that. Like there is a balance. Where is good, there is bad. Where is bad, there is good. A little bit more, a little bit less. But we focus on the things that we lack, the deficiencies maybe we carry as humans. And they write our stories, which is very dark down there. And I love that you do that to like spark it up. And through research, we found out that um, three positives are
Hmm.
equal to one negative. That's how big the negative energy pulls on into you. If your whole day was amazing, but at the end, like I don't know, the bus stopped a stop before your house, it ruins the whole day. And that's the power of it. So to understand the power of that negative positive balance, it takes a lot out of ourselves. And that's where we need to focus more in what we do best, what we like, and in our strengths, and use the strengths more. Because yes, we always are going to be on improving our weaknesses, but hey, who's relying on our strengths? That's what we're here for, to show our
Hmm.
strengths.
Yeah. I'm such a huge proponent for strengths too. I really love the work that Gallup has done around strengths. I don't know if you're familiar, but prior in my prior life in education, I did some facilitation on the Clifton Strengths Assessment and the whole concept of like the energy that you put in to tap into your strengths that naturally come to you is so far less of an energy suck than the energy that you put into improving things that are weaknesses or areas of growth for you. And not saying, like you said, that you don't need to focus on those areas, but understanding where you're spending your energy really does make a difference. And it helps your mindset so much better as far as building confidence. What I've learned is focusing on your strengths versus focusing on your weaknesses, because it's basically like when you go to write something, you pick up a pen with your dominant hand. You don't think about it. You just know you pick up with your dominant hand. Unless you're ambidextrous, then you may think about it a little bit more. But most of us, just like I'm right handed, I pick up a pen naturally with my right hand. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to exude too much energy to write anything. If I switch over to my left hand and try with my non dominant hand, it's a struggle all the way.
And also, like you're bringing this, it brings that sense of like, what is growth? From most of the people, even from therapists, I heard that the growth is when you improve your weaknesses, improve things that maybe you're deficient on, or you lack on, or you do something extra within yourself, something that you didn't have before, maybe a skill you didn't have before, or an ability. And observing, surveying, following through with treatments, actually the growth showed that it was the total opposite of it.
Mhm.
Yes, it is when you increase or improve your weaknesses, your lacks, you improve things that you'd like or abilities that you'd like to add into yourself. But also, the growth is when you master the skills that you already have. Just like you said, I don't have to think about when I go with my right hand to the pencil. And he's like, yes, more I use it, better I get it. That's growth. I'm expanding and I'm creating more space for this strength of mine to be a tool for another person that maybe doesn't have it.
Mhm.
So growth, it can be in both sides and ends. And people feel like, well, I didn't grow too much last year. I want to grow because I still lack on one, two, and three. And it's like, hold on. But have you thought about mastering what you already have?
Yeah, really becoming that expert with your strengths that you were naturally born with or that just naturally come to you because of who you are and the makeup of where you come from and who you grew up with and all those kind of things. It's really cool. And I love to think about how much of a unique perspective that brings. Like you said, it balances the strengths of others that are areas of weakness. Like for me, like that's why I love working and collaborating with folks that have different talents than I do because one, I can lean on them for that strength, but also I learn so much from them because they're in their natural element as well. And so it's a great energy exchange, if you will, in that
Yeah,
opportunity.
the zone of genius. And also looking at like the community, the society has been around for such a long time. And if you think and analyze the structure that we had had for so long and never changed it, we upgraded it to a modern life or presence that we live or have. But there is a reason why we have different professions, why we specialize and go to school for different things. If we all were, I don't know, therapists, maybe, right? Who was going to do the rest of the things? Who was going to be the mechanic? Who was going to be the heart doctor? Who was going to be the waiter? Who was going to be, I don't know, like the Uber driver? Like, there is so much diversity, but all of those professions, they take up skills. So if we go and take it from like this perspective, well, if you want to do the same thing that Tara is doing, right, great, you can do it, but what do you bring in it as yourself? And you're like, no, I want to do it like Tara. It's like, but that's Tara's specialty, those are her strengths, she masters those skills naturally, that's her gift. Find out your own gift. And he's like, no. So it's the same thing as saying, like, we all want to be doctors, we all want to be lawyers, or we all want to be waitresses. It's like, no, everybody holds a special role and we're crafted different because of what you mentioned before: situations, childhood, gifts, talents, personalities, and all of these other layers. But when you think about, okay, so we have this society think structure for so many years and it still works. And it's the same thing when we compare ourselves to others, which in the first place, I would not recommend it. But in second place, just think when you do that comparison that, hey, maybe I have something that I need to craft within myself. And the answers are only going to be within you. You cannot find it if you ask Ina or Tara, like, what do you think I should do? We don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. I always tell my clients that bring me here 20 other scientists, the best from around the globe. No one will ever give you the answers. We are here as professionals, which we have looked into research growth, we have been trained, we're specialized, we keep observing and doing research on knowing more, because if you work with humans, we change, and that's needed. But only you are the expert of yourself. We can only guide you, and we're amazing of how deep we can get you together to hold your hand to go down the stairs, but only you have that answer and you have to tell us. And sometimes like that's very empowering, even to like the clients who are not part of like being a coach or health professionals.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. I just love how we just started that. Haven't even gotten to a question yet. This is awesome. Um, I think I am gonna jump into a question though, because now you have said that you've cracked the code for being a successful therapist without burning out. And so I'm curious, like what was the turning point for you and how did that lead to the work that you're doing now? And maybe how that can translate for the listeners who either may be therapists or just working in a helping profession similar.
Mhm. Well, it took a lot of years, definitely, practice and experience to find out on your own. And also a huge team behind you. Um, Before I had the enough moment, I almost never sat down and reflected on my own to see who was on my back.
Mm,
And sometimes we take those people for granted. Sometimes we feel like, yeah, yeah, because he or she's saying that because they love me, or I don't know, like he's my professor or she's my mentor, or whatever reason we're giving, or he's my supervisor. Um, and when you get a point where enough is enough and you take some time for yourself, you start looking at things with gratitude and thinking, why did I have to go through that journey? I don't deserve this. I'm a good human. I was only trying to do good in life. And then those are the moments where you look back that say, like, there is a whole village, like, really, that was behind you to help you get there and hold your hand, but you were so detached from your own self.
mm,
And that was the part where it really clicked to me that I had everything around me. If you would ask me, how did you do all of that? I'll not be able to tell you. I became the chair for marriage and family therapy in New York State um, very soon after graduating. And to me, it was just like natural. Like, I don't know, maybe I was in the right time, the right place, and da 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 da. But because you keep going and nothing ever is enough for you.
mm,
And then everybody was saying, "Oh my god, you're exceptional." And you think that everybody's talking about a different person and it's not you. You keep going and going and going and trying to like say, "No, I need to do more. I need to do more." And realizing that I had a newborn under my desk when I started doing therapy, speaking in conferences, because that wasn't enough. Being a wife and a mom and being in school, seeing clients, leading New York State to me was not enough. We needed to do more. The title was not enough. People around you were setting you in positions where you could make decisions and fill in the gaps or help the profession, make the changes, have your voice heard. And that wasn't enough. And you feel a dissatisfaction with yourself, but everything, all of those points, they really come to you being disassociated with yourself, detached from yourself, and you're getting lost in the way of like, what am I doing here? I almost was audited by the state because I was graduated with double clinical hours. And that wasn't enough for me. I needed to do more experience, more clients. And I remember my first supervisor, she's like, you know what? You really need to chill in your sessions. You cannot solve their problem today. And at the time, I did not understand. I felt frustrated. What do you mean? I'm doing my best. But now I truly appreciated that supervisor who
mm,
really like sat down with me in a very nice way. I never experienced like something like throwing to your head and be like, no, 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 you listen. Everybody was so patient, which I'm very thankful and grateful. And when I start doing the steps, like I said, like take some time for yourself, start with grateful, looking around you, reflecting back, like how did you get these things like that? Looking more into yourself, connecting to your inner self, to your deeper self, and really, what is it that you're taking more clients, that the achievements are not enough? You need more. Like how further you need to go? You're leading New York State in marriage and family therapy, and it's really something about you. It's even that superior self-image that you want to create for yourself,
mm,
the person that you want to create for yourself, and then you don't even know what the person looks like or it is, and you get frustrated that you're not that person. But once you really value, see, connect, build a relationship with yourself, prioritize yourself, your self-care and boundaries, there is a complete change. And I never understood how much of a disservice I was being to my clients before.
mm,
I would hear it all the time from my professors, colleagues, but I was thinking that if I didn't show up in the office that day, something would happen. And how are my clients going to navigate their lives? But meanwhile, in my house, it was firing up. My
mhm,
kids, my family, my relationship, and to me it was too much to solve. And he's like, no, 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 give me three more clients. Let me go on a Saturday. And now then I think it's like, who thought that you would use work hours as a self-care hours? To me, that was like I was healing a part of me. But
mm,
also you're doing a lot of disservice to your client because you're just talking the talk to them, you're putting band-aids on them. But there is a part of you over there that maybe you're not being present. You're not having a clarity of what's going on, because in therapy we also have like part of the training self as a therapist, where you know how to use part of yourself in the therapy room. And I really had to say stop and enough when I didn't have more patience to listen. And I'll be aggravated with some of like, but why? At the beginning, I didn't mind seeing clients at 8 p.m. There came a point that I really needed to enforce the boundary, but I felt bad because it's like, but that's the only time she can make it. And it's okay. She can find another therapist. You can't do that. No, I was going to like make a whole plan how to meet that need for the client. And exhausted yourself after I did all this reflection and self-healing journey. The two key things are self-care and the boundaries. Boundaries don't mean that you're mean, you're aggressive, you have to leave people out. That's what I thought at the beginning. Like, so much boundaries with clients. How can I tell my client this is my business hours? Or like, I can make it, I can show up for them. No, because also therapy is not only the talk therapy we do in the room, therapy is also how you build a relationship with your clients, how you lead, how you show up. Sometimes I would overextend my sessions, but they were in the right moment. No, then the thing went so wrong after that 10 minute. That was the kin, that 10-minute mark. I should have closed it, and it wasn't fair for the other client to wait, and then the other client and my whole schedule would like be backed off, and then my kids, and then the progress notes, and all this line of things that only I caused it to myself. Like I see so many other helping professionals do the same things. And when you see that everybody's talking to you but you don't think they're talking to you, or you kind of like put a shield and you don't listen to what they have to say, um it's like people offering to be your shortcut, but you really want to go through that pain and experience, which is good. Like, I am very thankful I went through it, because I really like what I know now and what I can lead on now. I experienced it and I know what it feels like, what it looks like, and how much of a toll they take over you, and understanding and connecting more to those helping professionals that, hey, it sounds like 90% of us, we had something going on in our families. We came from a childhood that wasn't easy. We came from patterns that were not healthy, dysfunctional families. Maybe we created a dysfunctional family because of the environment, mindset, lack of resources, and all of that.
I think what I heard throughout most of that is that self-awareness is so important, especially I think for helping professionals, because you got into that field for a reason. You're drawn to help people, is
Yeah.
at least I hope. That's why folks get into that field. And that can be really hard, like you said, to set boundaries, because if you don't see boundaries as a way to express care, then it can really be a hindrance to caring for yourself and knowing where your limits lie. When I talk to folks about boundaries, I'm also very big on like self-care and boundaries. And I say like those things aren't going to fix the problem necessarily, but they're going to give you the foundation to be able to fix the problem. And when I talk to people about boundaries, I also see that a lot of misconceptions about what boundaries are. People see boundaries as placing it on someone else. But really, the boundary is about how you are going to respond to the situation or to the environment or to the relationship or whatever the boundary is centered around. The boundary is really not about the other people. The boundary is about you and what you need to protect yourself. But if you don't have any self awareness, or if you haven't taken that time like you did to self reflect, to really heal through a lot of the challenging situations that you face, the history that just comes with who you are as a person as you've grown, then you can't set the appropriate boundaries because you don't know what you need and you don't know what you don't know at that point. And I love the whole perspective too of the fact that like you could be doing a disservice to your clients and the folks that you're working with by not modeling the behavior that you're probably likely recommending to them in the first place.
Right, because you're saying to them that it is okay. Let's say if you are extending the hours, like, okay, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, or like, okay, I can see you out of my hours as a therapist. Guess what they're doing? They're going home. Let's say if it's a couple, the wife is saying, well, it's okay if you did it this time. If it's a kid, let's say if it's okay if mom did that to me one time. So you're creating that space of allowance,
Mhm.
and more you allow people within your space access on things that are really important for you, you will frustrate yourself more. It's the same thing of opening your house door, taking it completely the door off, and people just walking in and out, and you're like, but it's okay. Is it really okay if people walked in and out your house without the door, without asking permission or knocking and saying, "Hey, Tara, can I come in?"
Mhm.
So when I realized that that was a ripple effect I was doing to my clients, I said, I felt even more like, oh my God, I was thinking I was helping them. I really need to like sit with myself first, because this is a ripple effect, that this is not the message I'm giving out there. And I was wondering why we were having other issues going on,
Mm.
because you were modeling that it is okay, and you confuse people when you say it's okay. It's like, let's say I'm telling you, like, I don't know, Tara, like, I'm going to give you like an hour of my time. And we say like an hour and a half. And I say, well, it's okay, Tara, Um, over the time, the other people that get comfortable with it and say, well, she's okay with it. And next time we're going to extend it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then you get frustrated, and it impacts the relationship with yourself and also the relationships that you have around.
The more you give, the more folks will take, and it's not to their fault, or it's probably, at least I like to assume, it's not ill intent, but you're just showing what you're willing to give. And if you keep doing the little pieces, like you said, that creeping kind of comes in, like the calendar creeping, the time creeping, the energy creeping. It slowly starts to shift, and you're essentially training the other folks
Yeah.
on what you will and will not accept. You can use that to your advantage when it comes to boundaries, but it can also be to your hindrance as well, to kind of depending. And this kind
Yeah.
of leans to my next question too, because a lot of what I'm seeing and hearing right now in our conversation is that there is an expectation of leadership in the kind of therapist client relationship. There is a leadership role that therapists can play, and they may not think of themselves in that realm or in that vision of as a leader. And so I'm curious how you help them step into that leadership role, and maybe what it looks like in practice, either for you or for other folks that you work with or talk with.
Yeah. When it comes to mentoring therapists, I love it because it's like, when you realize something and you're like, no, no, give it to everybody, to like learning and have it, and knowing exactly how a person feels is like the best shortcut you can do to someone. Is like, I went through it, but you don't have to go through it, but you will have a different challenge. Because as I said, those are all learning points. We start with self as a therapist, with the beliefs. What do you believe as a therapist, as a human? What are your roles that you play? Doing a genogram, just like what we do with other people. I just take the time to see it and say, like, it's funny when you do it to the clients, but let's do it to you. And
Mhm.
then we go through the wheel of life to assess your life in like 360, because everything is important, and not everything is going to be skyrocketed. And like we're in that phase, like we need to put goals, and sometimes goals can be very empowering, but also can be very overwhelming, because as helping professionals, we tend to overcommit. We tend to take on more. We looking for shortcuts. If I only can do this, and also making peace that we cannot change the system, but we can help people around us and elevate them and empower them and just hold space for them. So really we start with like you and your life, and assess, and actually your goal. Why are you a therapist? What drew you into this field? What do you want to do? What's your mission with it? There is a reason you're here. Like you said, there is a reason you're here. And believe me, most of the therapists, I've heard enough stories, they're here because they haven't owned in themselves. They want to heal a part of themselves. If they couldn't help themselves as a child, they want to do it for the other kids today. If they couldn't have help themselves as a wife, they want to help other females today and empower them. Everybody has a mission when they become a therapist, even though we tend to be like, I don't know, it's a gift, I just had it in me. It's like, if you sit down with it, it's really something that it was a part of you. You figured it out what to do and how to do it, and now you don't want other people to go through what you went through, because now you have the medicine, you have a cure to cancer in a sense. And the other part, we go through time management, setting boundaries, which is very important. As therapists, myself first, we wear the overbooking of the calendar as a badge of honor.
Mm.
And, when I realized that, I was very upset with myself because I thought if you're a good therapist, then you would be booked 2 months in advance. And it happened. I made it happen. And I don't know how, don't ask me how, but it happened. A lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of showing up. But there was not a badge of honor you want to wear, because think of yourself as a tool. You are like the phone. And as a therapist, as a helping profession, not only therapists, we are the tool to other people to help them, to kind of like fix them in a service. Like we take our car for an oil change. That's how are we for people. But also the mechanic or the person who's doing the reprogramming needs to be in a good condition. If
Mhm.
my phone is not working anymore, I need to get a new phone. Right. And then we don't think about it all the time. So really going through that time management, setting boundaries, and managing stress and overwhelm. That's
Mhm.
the most important part. Once we went through those steps, then we go to like, what does success looks for you? Most of the time, one of the mindsets that I had to shift myself was that success wasn't being busy. I thought busy was being successful. Like my calendar is full the next 2 months, you have to wait the third month to book with me. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, this is not what that is. This is just your belief. And from going from like, I'll rest when it's done because I have more to catch up and do. And if I only did this, maybe I can be recognized as the therapist of the year or ta 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 ta. No, rest really fuels your success, your creativity, your functionality. And if you're there overworking yourself, you're telling your clients it's okay to keep
Mhm.
going. Just don't think about it. Stress, it's okay. Just keep going. We're just causing them more traumas. We're just
Yeah.
causing them more place to not have that space to be like, we're just telling them, don't think, just go, 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 go. And that's where the society is in today. And once we define that success, what does it look for each and everybody of us? Because it's different. Um, Lifting those limiting beliefs like I had the badge of honor for overbooking, then we go into like, okay, how do you embody it? How would you live it? What are some routines that if you want to have that life or this is your success, what do we do for it? So then when you leave my program, you are able to carry it and really like transform, have the transformation with you. I had clients before which they were not in line with my values. They'll come to the program, they'll take the information, be like, oh my God, this is great. And then they'll go right back to where they were. It's like, okay, but what is the point of you taking my program? I love the support. Thank you so much. Of course, I need the income. But at the same time, I'm not feeling well when nothing has changed in your life and you're looking for another course. I want this to be a build up. Yes, you're always going to need a teaching guide. You're always going to need another point, but not the same thing. We don't reset from that point. We reset for a new level. We reset for a new chapter with more skills. We don't reset for the same thing to not break patterns, to not step into the best version of who we are. And then once I saw that, I decided to really like assess who's going to be part of the program because I really want you to be ready to do the work. And I don't mind to do the work for 6 months, 1 year. It doesn't matter. Not everybody takes 3 months, not
Mhm.
everybody takes 1 month because some people, it takes longer to accept or have that awareness. We may sit with people and say, it looks like this is what your reality is. And she's like, no, I think you're wrong. And then a month later, they're like, oh my God, you were so right about it. So the progress is different and we need to give people the time. But in the end of the day, I really want you to step up for yourself. Now, later, after a year, after 6 months, we have all the tools. And as therapists, I really felt fueled to this part that as a person, if I have all the tools that I need to crack this code and really model and step into the leadership for the people that I see, for the clients that I see, then I really should take this seriously. I really should prioritize myself first because I'm telling my client, but what I'm doing, I'm prioritizing them. And my client is going to go home and say, you know what, let me reschedule therapy because my child has something going on, right?
Mhm.
And if I have all the tools, I can make it happen. Imagine the people that don't have those tools, but, and then being mindful that we are humans. We don't learn. By what we hear. We learn by what we see. And that's
Mhm.
the point.
Yeah. And a lot of leadership is so much about, as they say, like practicing what you preach, not just like, not the whole do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, but really modeling the way of what you expect. And as a therapist or someone working with another individual, if you're contradicting yourself based on the actions that you're doing versus the things that you're saying and recommending, like you said, it causes confusion for the other person. It really does create just this like gray area of like, what do they actually mean? I also think that it can hurt the trust in the relationship, because if you're doing one thing but saying another, to me, that's not acting within your integrity. That is not in alignment with who you are. And so I'm going to start questioning what you're encouraging me to do as someone on the other end, like observing this.
Yeah.
So I love that you're working with folks to really try to do the personal work first, because that is going to lay the foundation for a successful therapist client or whatever type of relationship. Because the more you understand yourself, the better you can then help someone else understand themselves, because you're confident in who you are and you know your strengths, like we started with, your limitations, the values that are important to you, and the things that you need to be the best version of yourself for that other person. I'm going to jump to my last question that I mentioned to you, that I always ask everybody this question as well, because I feel like I get a lot of great insights on this. And I think it helps my listeners just think about how they define balance and kind of being a badass in their own lives. So, as you know, this podcast is the Balanced Badass podcast. So, it's all about really having that balanced living approach with badass results and not losing your edge in the process. So, how do you, Ina, define being a balanced badass in your own life?
Prioritizing.
Mm,
Um, Balancing, being like really a badass to balancing is really prioritizing. Life has so many choices. We have so many take ons nowadays. Shift your mindset from I have to do it all to it's okay to delegate. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean you don't have the ability. That doesn't mean that you're not worthy. But at the moment, is leading with what do I have to prioritize today? And also in the prioritization, and I want to share this list. It has worked. It's been very efficient, even for my clients or the therapists that I mentor. That just because we're saying prioritize is not only one thing. It breaks down to like, what is the urgency to do today that it cannot wait anymore? And always start with self care. If you do your calendar, just start with you. Where is the you times that you fill your cups first? And then your family time and appointments that might have, and then work. We don't work to leave, we leave to work for the
mhm,
purpose, for the mission, right? But not to overextend ourselves because like we need the money and like we're going by the lack, but also like we this is a big disequilibrium, big disbalance. And then after you find the urgencies, you go to the emergencies.
mm,
What is the emergency in that list? And then we go to like what is something that it's a priority, and then we go down to like what is something that it's important. What is important? It is important. Picking up my kids from school, it is important all the time, right? But maybe this podcast, it's a really priority for me that I need to do. And I can tell my husband, look, today I really need you to pick up the kids. That doesn't make me a bad mother. That doesn't make me that I can't do it all. We can do it all, but not at the same time. And there is
mhm,
a reason we live in a community. So really prioritize to your needs at the moment. I know we talk a lot about the past and the future, but the present is so important. And you're going to get done everything, all of your goals, anything that you want to do in life. But everything has a season. I
mhm,
cannot be 5 roles at the same time. I used to do that before, but I was failing in almost all of the projects because I can do this and da, 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 da. No, you cannot do that. From spring season, what can you do? What can you take on? Right? For Monday, what can you do? Maybe you can, I don't know, like relax for yourself on Monday and do the calendar. And then on Tuesday, you can wash clothes. And then on Thursday, you can do meal prep, and then on Saturday again, you can do meal prep. And then another day, you can prioritize something else. It gives a lot of diversity, making sure you're incorporating a lot of your strengths within those days. But when you know how to prioritize at the moment, that's where you really gain a good balance. There is no cookie cutter that you can put now in a circle and be like, you know, if I do 50-50 of this, or if I do 100% of this, no, this is where you burn out. And the first thing you do is lose yourself, really cut tie with yourself, because yourself can't do it anymore. And they're like, okay, if you think so, goodbye. And your inner self is like just sitting back and eating popcorn. And you're just like trying on the outside so much.
Yeah, I really like that, and I like that you provided almost like a tangible checklist that you can really apply to everything, like to your to-do list at work, at home. And I like the difference between like urgency and emergency because, you know, you hear a lot about like what needs to get done today, but like then there's things that they're just going to pop up that you may not have planned for either. So you kind of have to be able to adjust as you go also and kind of ebb and flow with that. So I really like that and appreciate that. And I hope that the listeners are really walking away today with just some fresh insights and hopefully some inspiration too to do a little bit of that self-exploration, that digging, and to know that it's not selfish. It's really a way for you to serve others in the capacity that you want to be able to serve them. So Ina, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us, for sharing some really good and incredible tips with us. And before we go, though, I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to just share with listeners how they can find you, how they can connect with you, a little bit more about your work. So that way, if something spoke to them, that they know where to find you. So can you share that with us?
Yes, and I really appreciate and very grateful for the space that you have, as I love talking about like the balance, the burnout, because those are the two common things that maybe we're experiencing right now, and we
Mhm.
need this space. Um, if anyone can relate or needs has a question, reach out for anything, even just like to say hi. In my Instagram, I'm mostly on Instagram at INA underscore QEMA. And there they can find tips on daily life, on how to overcome burnout, build themselves, realign with their values, really like know how to manage their emotions. And I think my Instagram is the best source. Any updates, any group coaching programs that I bring out, mostly about like the burnout to balance, is like 8 to 10 weeks. I announce it there, where it starts, when it ends, or the self-paced course, which includes all of the modules that we spoke about, from like the self, the wheel of life, to like the stepping into success and embodying them. Can find it in the page of the Instagram.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to make sure to link to your Instagram page in the show notes so that way folks can easily access and all that and see what you're up to. So that's really great. Once again, just thank you, Ina, for spending time and your transparency and just the great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully, listeners, I hope you love this episode as much as I did. And if you did, it would definitely mean the world to me if you share it with someone who could use these tips, who needs to hear a message or a nugget that was shared today. And also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Because as you know, I like to keep it real here on the Balance Badass podcast. And friend, just remember to stay balanced, stay badass, and make good choices. And I'll see y'all in the next episode. Thanks for hanging out with me on the Balance Badass podcast. I hope today's episode brought you a little more balance and a lot more badass in your day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps more multitaskers like you find the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, take care of yourself and make good choices, friend. I'll catch you next week.